What's up guys, back to another Konosuba video, and in today's video we are going to talk about personal weapons plus 6. So, right off the bat, I just want to say two things. One, this will not be taking into account the stat boosts that you get, because I feel while some of them are better than others, it really shouldn't factor too much into their personal weapon. You know, Melissa could get the best stat buff out of everybody by far, and I, still wouldn't be like, oh, well, her personal weapon does, 1% more compared to, like, let's say Cosmo's gets like a 20% gauge increase or something. Obviously, you're going to want Cosmo's over Melissa's, even if Melissa gets higher stats, So, basing this off of what the weapon does when upgraded, I have the +5 and the +6 on my other monitor, so I will explain them as I go and rank them accordingly. Personally, myself, I think I'll probably just do Cosma, Aqua, Megumin, and Wiz, just because those are characters I use a lot with their personal weapon, and most of the time they have their personal weapon all the time. This isn't just, me saying these are the characters you should do. Obviously, some characters are going to have better. I think Wiz actually doesn't have that, great of a personal weapon upgrade, but, I like Wiz a lot, so I'm going to do it anyway. It is what it is. Also, another thing real quick before we get into the video, a lot of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it takes like 2 seconds, even if you aren't going to watch a video, helps out, and you won't have to go searching for my videos when you would like to watch them, or just in the future when you're like, oh hey, how good is Fast Cosmo, or how good is Ninja Chris, yada yada, boom, my videos are already there, you don't have to go searching. Anyway, let's jump into the video. So first thing first, my boy Kazuma. So Kazuma has a pretty solid weapon. It's 164 physical attack and 40 luck, and then 14% normal damage and 10% ultimate gauge charge. And when you get it to +6, it goes from 164 to 178. The 40 luck stays the same, and the elementalist damage stays at 14, but the gauge increase goes to 12. Personally, I do think this is one of the better ones. That is kind of a nice little jump. It is 14 physical attack, and then you get 2% ult gauge charge. I know that's not something crazy, but the fact that you already get snipe easy enough and you get it, 2% faster, it's still kind of nice. All those times that you're like, a pixel, just a little pixel off, could help out. Plus Kazuma, unless he's running Chun Chun Maru, the normal one, you're pretty much running the sword, so you probably would want to get upgraded. Plus, Legendary Cosmo is coming out soon, and the Red Shred Cosmo is pretty much everywhere, so this would not be a bad upgrade. Next up, we have the Goddess Aqua. Aqua has a 138 physical attack that goes to a 150, so it's a 12 increase. 58 magic attack to 69 magic attack. That's funny. Goes up by 11. Then she has a 5% physical and an 8% light that goes to an 8% physical and an 8% light. So the light damage does not stay the same. I mean, it does stay the same, sorry. Brain fart there. So that is unfortunate. That means you can kinda, if you're a newer player and you maxed Aqua and you don't have the +6 scepter, which I would assume you would, but I guess this means that you could run this on legendary Aqua if you had to, because they boost the physical damage and the magic attack is up there a little bit more, but you're still better off with the water scepter. If you have Damachi Aqua, this one is going to be kind of beefy, just because it's already good and amazing on her. It isn't the biggest buff, I will say. The 3% to physical attack is nice, and the stats up are nice. The magic attack is kind of irrelevant unless you're legendary Aqua and she uses a different weapon. I don't think this is too bad, but it kind of hinges on you having a collab unit. If you don't have the collab unit, I think it's more of the lower tier ones, maybe in C, but if you do, definitely a really good weapon. Hopefully. Next up is Megumin. So Megumin goes from a jeez, a 168 to a 183 magic attack. That is quick math. What, 19? Yeah, 19 magic attack, and her 20% ultimate damage becomes 21. Now, not the craziest. I mean, it's not terrible. The magic attack kind of helps it, but it's not something you know, go out of your way to really get. It's only a 1% ultimate damage, and I feel like most of the time to help with wave, you're going to run lav instead. I'll have to use this a bit more. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh because the magic attack is a nice, what, 19 I said, right? Oh no, sorry, it was 4. Oh man, I might have said the wrong number. Brain is going crazy. So yeah, 168 would be what, 25. Is it only 15? Yeah, it's only 15. Never mind. I don't know what I said earlier. Spacing out so many numbers on the screen. Anyway, 15% or 15 magic attack and then 1% ultimate damage. I don't think like that's too crazy. Like I said, most of the time I use lav if I have trouble clearing wave. Like I said, maybe have to test it out, and maybe I'm just missing something with this one, but doesn't seem all too important. But since it's already a good staff, I will at least put it in C. Next up is Darkness herself. Darkness goes from a 162 physical attack to a 176, and a 58 physical defense to a 63 physical defense. Then her traits become 7 to physical magic resistance to 10. That's all 3%, and the physical defense up and the physical attack up is kind of nice. Not gonna lie. There is an issue with Darkness Sword, and that's just the fact that most of the time, if you're going crazy in something like Arena, you're probably going to want to use like Chuchunmaru or something else. But for the tanking purposes, this is not a bad sword. If you're doing it in, let's say, Dungeon or Arena, definitely not bad. The 3%, you know, more impactful than you think. You know, if you ever get crit or barely lived on 1, that 3%, you know, saved you or didn't save you because, you know, if you didn't have it. So I personally think this is one of the bigger buffs from what I quickly saw going through. The only issue, like I said, is you probably won't be using this to whip out big damage like you would with Chuchunmaru, but that's fine because Darkness is mostly used for tanking purposes anyway. Now we go to Chris. Chris, from what I've seen, has a pretty okay buff. She goes from 160 physical attack to 174. She goes from 2 agility to 3 agility, and her trait, which is if the target is debuffed, they get more. It goes from 8 to 13 if debuffed, and then on 6 it's 9 to 15 if debuffed. So pretty much you get a 1%, and then if they're debuffed, you get a 2% up, and then she gets attack and agility. Overall, not too bad, especially with Ninja Chris coming. This is definitely a contender for, you know, going up. I'm not too sure how impactful the 1 agility is off the top of my head, but I mean, it's there at least. I really like the 15%. If debuffed, that's pretty nice. Obviously, it's only going up by 6 from the 9%, but still 15% is pretty nice. Is that the highest percentage? Melissa might have one that's higher because it's weird, or maybe Erica, I'm not too sure, but that's still a higher percent than most of the other ones that are like 10 or 8. So personally, I think it's pretty good. Chris is also getting hard carried by the fact that, you know, Summer Chris, Ninja Chris, and then Legendary Chris are all insanely good. Anyway, next up is Wiz. Now Wiz goes from a 154 magic attack to a 167. She goes from 10% magic attack to 11%, and her 60% chance of absorbing damage stays the same. Now, unfortunately for Wiz, as much as I love her, Her main use of personal weapon is the fact that she has the damage absorption chance, and that makes her pretty tanky. The fact that it doesn't increase in the percentage sucks, and she's only getting a 1% magic attack boost. I mean, the magic attack normally goes up by, what, 13? I guess that's okay, but not anything crazy that you go out of your way to do. Unfortunately, Wiz probably has one of the worst upgrades that I've seen, even though she has a overall good unique weapon. If you really like Wiz and still use her a lot, I guess this is okay, but note that she's not getting any tankier, she's just doing a bit more damage. Whew, made me sad a little bit. I'm sorry, Wiz. Next up is Yunyun though. She goes from a 164 magic attack to a 178. She gets a 15 to 16 magic defense, and then goes from 7 magic attack, 7 light damage to 8 magic damage, 7 light damage. Honestly, I don't think this one is crazy good either. It's a 1% magic damage, 1 magic defense, and then some magic attack. I mean, if you use light Yunyun, the OG one, sure, I guess, but at this point, you know, Lav is out there, the assassin staff, the arena one, is also out there. Plus, with the supposed elemental staffs that we're getting, I'm not too sure when they're getting an upgrade, but I know a lot of people on the JP side use those. Those are probably going to be better. Yunyun definitely needed a bit more percentage wise to contest with the other ones, so she goes in D. You're gonna see a trend of some of these weapons getting basically no upgrade, unfortunately. I guess the stats are nice on the trial in general, but we're not looking at those. Next up is Iris. Goes from 165 to 179, and then gains, like Yunyun, 15 to 16 physical defense. Then her trait goes from 8 physical attack and 7% ultimate damage to 11 physical attack and 8 ultimate damage. Now that's a bigger upgrade than Yunyun. The thing is, you know, at least Iris gets a bit more, and the ultimate damage is kind of nice. Most of the time when you're running Iris, you probably have another sword user up front in Kazuma or what's not, so I found myself using the sword quite a bit actually over something like Enigma Blade. So I don't think this is actually too bad of a weapon to do. I wouldn't put it on par with someone like Kazuma. Kazuma definitely got the good end of the stick, but this is definitely not a bad one. And if the percentages jump this high going forward with like +7, +8, +9, whatever they do, I'd be okay with that. Definitely better than giving them +1, 1% boost and calling it good. Next up is Comeco. Comeco goes from 154 magic attack to 178 magic attack and gains 16 magic defense because she didn't have it all apparently. Then her trait goes from 10 magic attack and 7% normal damage to 10% elementalist damage and 11 magic damage. Oh, yeah, okay, they're just reversed. So 10-7 to 11-10. Pretty, you know, decent buff, not gonna lie. Only issue is elementalist damage is kind of useless on her ult. Unfortunately, Comeco suffers from her weapon sucks in general, so even if the boost is crazy good, it has to be like, you know, 30% damage or something for it to matter. Unfortunately, Comeco is gonna fall in the collab units, which the collab units, I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, they're there because they only get like a small boost in stats. I think Eyes, I looked at her right when the update happened, and she gains, I think, like 10 HP, 20 or power defense from what I remember. It was like HP and defense. Nothing that is going to help me do more damage, so I was like, I'm good. Next up is Cecily. Cecily does 131 physical attack to 142, and then does 142 magic to 154. That is a nice boost. Then she has a 10%, or sorry, a 8% magic damage and 5% water damage that goes from 10 to 6. Again, her weapon is, yikes. I mean, Cecily's weapon is you know, I'm sure it can be used. The physical attack stat is questionable. I believe I think one ult is, no, they're both physical. I don't use Cecily too often, but it's kind of bad. I'm not a huge fan of it doing physical and magic. Kind of like I don't like Aqua's, but Aqua is fortunately more lucky than Cecily, so I'm gonna put it in bad. It is what it is. Next up is Aru. Aru goes from 164 to 178, and then goes from 15 to 16 magic defense. She then gains a 7% magic damage and a 7% dark damage to 8 magic damage, 7 dark damage. I'm going to put it in the same tier as Yunyun, a pretty small buff that probably isn't going to matter too much. You're probably going to use a different staff, or if you're using OG Aru, just use this if you have to. I mean, if you don't have anything else upgrade, I guess, but not a huge upgrade to go crazy with. Next up is Mitsurugi. Poor Mitsurugi actually got swept to the side because I want to get a couple characters +6 before I get Mitsurugi his personal weapon. He's been waiting for like quite literally the entire game, basically, I swear. But he goes from 164 physical attack to 178. He goes from 29 to 32 physical defense, and then gains a 9% physical attack and a 150 HP recovery to a 10% physical attack and a 170 HP recovery. Now it's only 20 HP and the physical attack is only 1%, but the HP is like, it's cool. This is another thing where like most of the time this is your tank and you're probably gonna have Chunchumara on someone else. I mean, if you have Chunchumara and you only have one sword user, you're probably gonna use that instead, but this is definitely not a bad sword. I'd probably put it in B along with Iris. If Chunchumara didn't exist, I'd probably put Iris and Mitsurugi in like S, just because their weapons aren't bad. They're just Chunchumara is just Chunchumara. It is what it is, kind of thing, you know? Ugh. I just looked at who is next on the list. All right, so our good boy Dusk goes from 162 physical attack to 176. His dexterity stays the same at 10, and his trait is 8% physical attack, 13 if below 7% HP. And then, wait, there's no way. What? Wait, hang on. I actually have to read this real quick. Does it really go down? Hang on. I might have to double check this. Hang on, you're gonna hear some stuff. Interesting. Information might be wrong and I don't want to lead you guys astray, so ignore the fact that you're gonna hear me on Konosuba for like 2 seconds. Well, 70. Okay. Interesting. This could be wrong, but according to the JP tier list from Koala, I'll link it in the description. It says 50%, but I remember Dust having 70% or lower. Pretty much Dust goes from, I'm just gonna assume it's 70. If it actually is 50, that's even worse, and Dust should be in never ever look at him. But he goes from 8 to 13 to 9 to 15 if below 70% HP. That's bad. If it's actually 50% when you upgrade it, that's even worse. It means you have to be like basically dead at that point to use it. Dust is just disgusting. Don't use them. Anyway, back to the video. Rin is next. She goes from 145 to 158 magic attack, 3 agility to 3 agility, and 8 magic damage, 7 wind to 8 magic and 7 wind. Wait, what? It really only gains magic attack? Yeah. Why would you ever waste it on such a small upgrade? Yikes. She must have to have like crack stats for me to ever do that. That's crazy. Next up is Lia. So Lia goes from 145 to 158. She stays at 3 agility, and she gets 8% physical, 5% magical defense. That goes from 12 to 7. So she gains 4 physical percent. Sorry, she gains 4% physical damage, and what, 7% magic defense. Not bad. Percentages are definitely higher than some other people on this list. And the physical attack is what, 13? Yeah, 13. Definitely not bad. I actually really like this one, so I might be overshooting it a bit. Spears are also kind of bad, so you kind of want to go crazy with Lia's, as Lia's isn't a bad spear in my opinion. So I'm gonna put her in A. If it's a little high, let me know, but personally I really like this, and I think this will be the first one I go for after I get the characters I like. 2+6. Next up is our great Cielo. She goes from 144 magic attack to 157, and then she goes from 55 physical defense to 55 physical defense. She goes from 10 magic damage and 5% physical defense to 11 magic damage and 7 physical defense. I mean, I guess for more physical tankiness, you're not going to ever want her to be in a position to take damage as a tank, so you're just going to use the scepters instead. Unfortunately, you're noticing a trend of if their personal weapon is bad, they are stuck in bad. And so far, Rin seems to be like the only exception, because hers didn't get buffed whatsoever. Anyway, next is Erica. So Erica goes from 158 physical attack to 172. That is what, 14? Yeah, 14. Okay. She goes from 2 agility to 3 agility, and she goes from 8% physical attack, 13 if above 70% HP, to 9 and 16. 16, that's more than I think Chris's was. Chris's was 15. That's pretty good. Erica actually has a pretty good dagger, and I'm glad it's getting, buffed more. I don't know what it's going to look like at +7, but if it goes up the way it is and she gets more agility and a, bigger percentage boost, it went up by like 3. Yeah, 3. I'll be very happy. I think Erica definitely has one of the better upgrades. Next up is Melissa. Melissa suffers from having a bad weapon, so I'm already not too impressed. She goes from 158 physical attack to 172. She gains +1 agility, 2 to 3, and then she has a passive where if the target is status ailmented, which is like poison, haze, all that kind of stuff, she goes from 8 to 13, and when upgraded goes from 9 to 16. Unfortunately, the status is kind of suck. Most characters who are good don't have those, and they're kind of niche, plus you can straight up just not inflict them sometimes. If you're lowering a enemy's defense and they can be lowered, it is lowering their defense or their attack. When you're hitting a boss who can get hit with something like poison, it'll say you have a small chance, medium chance, great chance to poison. So there's a chance you just straight up miss, and then Melissa's weapon isn't getting a buff. Just use like the Goddess Dagger or the Arena Dagger instead, please. Now we're on to Mia. Mia has 154 physical attack to 167. She goes from 29 to 32 physical defense. Then she goes from 8 physical damage and 5% physical defense to 12 and 7. That's actually, what, 4 and 2%? Not too bad. I'm not too knowledgeable on the other lances, is what they're called, I think. Spears, that's the word I'm looking for. Lances, what? Anyway, not too knowledgeable on those ones. I like don't use Mia too often, so I just kind of like use Leah's personal weapon. But definitely not a terrible upgrade. Mia kind of suffers from the fact that there's only one good Mia out right now, and Ain's coming out for Overlord is probably gonna make that Mia not ever used, but it could be worse. I think I'll still put her in D though, unfortunately. Next up is Amy. So Amy goes from 144 to 157 magic attack, 51 magic defense to 55, and goes from 10% magic damage and 5% healing to 11 and 7. Is the healing really like 7%? Doesn't seem like it'd be that much healing. I feel like if you're healing, you're either healing a little bit or max anyway. Probably just falls under the same category as Cielo. I don't think I'd ever go out of my way to get Amy's personal weapon regardless, so I'm gonna put her in bad, unfortunately. The only character on this list I'm kind of iffy about is Megumin, because her weapon is actually good, but I'm gonna keep her in C. Let me know what you think in the comments. But just going over these characters and what their percentages are, plus how useful they are, this is where I'm putting them on the tier list. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. If you disagree, let me know. Voice your concerns, all that good stuff. But this is, in my opinion, the, who you should +6 tier list. If you use these characters over certain other characters, definitely keep that in mind. Like if you use Megumin on every team you have, but you never even tried to trial Iris, definitely just go for Megumin first. This is just assuming you have them all +5, or at least, working on these characters. You're like, oh, well, my Lia and my Erica, or my Erica and my Aru are both, +1 personal weapon. Which one should I go for first? If you don't have a character trial, definitely take that into account with how much materials it's going to take. Let me double check. The materials you are going to need are going to be 6 cat ear reliefs and 18 of whatever jewel you need. A little bit of a jump, but over time you'll get this done. Hopefully you guys get a good amount of them done before they introduce +7 eventually. I'm not too sure when that is, but when I figure it out or look at the JP schedule, I'll let you guys know. But anyway, enough rambling from me. That's pretty much it for the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Konosuba content. Sorry that this video is a bit longer. A lot of talking, a lot of math, a lot of ranking. But anyway, I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.